commit to vote in favor of the Enumerated Powers Act, H.R. 450, which requires each and every act of Congress to contain a concise and definite statement of the constitutional authority relied upon for the enactment of each portion of that act?
And I did answer no on that. And the reason I did was because, first of all, each one of us as elected officials swears to uphold the Constitution. And, for myself, serving in the state Senate here in Indiana, I have a Constitution with me at my desk when I'm voting. I carry a Constitution in my suit coat often. And I believe that it is important for each one of those who are elected to office to make that decision based upon their belief in the Constitution. And, even though a description of what may apply or how it may apply to the Constitution on each particular piece of legislation would be helpful, I think that is important for those who are elected to office to apply it themselves to the Constitution and make their decision based upon that.
Good answer. If you've already sworn to uphold it, I guess no need to say it again, is there? The next question is, do you commit to support legislation to eliminate all government-sponsored entities, or what is that, Julia?
It's government-sponsored enterprises.
Enterprises, yes. And I would assume that would be like Fannie and Freddie. And will you commit to support legislation that would establish a date beyond which no further loan guarantees will be issued or honored by these GSEs, as they're called, effectively allowing the secondary mortgage market to go fully private? And you just responded NA to that. So
yes, and that was one that I went back and forth on in my small business experience, and also representative experience at the state Senate level. There's obviously pros and cons to any government involvement, and one of the things that I saw happen, this coming from Elkhart, LaGrange County, Indiana, where we have high unemployment, and a lot of that due to the RV industry. When the banking collapse occurred, not an entire collapse, obviously, but there was a lot of small businesses that said would go to their bank and were not able to get a loan from them. Many of those small businesses had always paid their loans. They'd always been on time, but the banks chose not to give them a loan. And so I think there are some cases where you broaden the pool, and maybe if the private sector meets that need, there's no need for the government to do it. But if there is a need in a sector where the government can do a loan guarantee, then it may support that industry temporarily. Now, obviously, never for long term, but only something in certain cases where there may be unpredictable ramifications or situations that people were not expecting. So, mainly it fits into my philosophy that government should be a safety net. In certain cases, not in all cases. I mean, we live in a free enterprise system, and people have the right to fail and they have the right to succeed in business. But if there is a natural disaster, or if there is a situation where businesses cannot get the loan or the resources that they need and usually it's because of a failed government policy, then I think that there is some room there for loan guarantees, but definitely not something that they should be in the business competing with the private sector all of the time.
The next one, the Constitution makes no specific provision for the federal government to hold any lands other than a Federal Reserve for the capital, the District of Columbia. Therefore, do you commit to support legislation requiring the federal government to transfer ownership of all federal lands back to the individual states that they are located within, with the exceptions of the District of Columbia and existing military bases and ranges?
Yeah, I answered no on that. I don't believe that, for one thing, right now, that some states may have the capability or the right expertise to handle some of those pieces of property. As our country grew, especially to the west, there was a lot of property purchased by the federal government, and I would particularly like to, as a person here in Indiana, be able to travel to those other states and have access to those federal properties, whether they're parks or other federal lands. So right now, I think it's more important that those properties remain in the federal government's hands so that they can be enjoyed by all of Americans.